Hey guys, this is Dylan. This is Lisa's fiance, and arguably by the time you watch this video, they could be married and have kids by now. Who knows? All I know is that yes, you both should procreate. If nothing else, get plenty of cats and dogs like us, and as you already have. So all is good. I see Lisa giggling there in the background and stuff. So Lisa's normally the model, and Lisa's just doing some Instagram stories right now. So it's all fun. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to have. Now we've got a very handsome groom, but usually, and I haven't even told Dylan to do this, he is pretty much acting like most grooms in front of a camera in terms of the body language. Do you see how his hands are above his crotch? What we're doing right now is we feel a little bit uncomfortable, so we're hiding the most sensitive part of our body. That's what we're doing. So, even though that you didn't do it actively, it is something that we get approached with all the time. So whereas when I'm actually photographing a bride, my voice might be a little bit softer, it might be a little bit sweeter, there might be a different energy. If you overpose a guy, he's going to feel a little bit awkward. And you'll find that the way I even greet the groom will be a little bit different than the bride. So I might look at the bride and say, oh my God, you look gorgeous. I love your hair, your shoes. It'll be a believable compliment with the bride, and certainly it'll be the same with the groom. So if I was to walk up to Dylan and say, hey man, you look really sharp, give him a bit of a masculine, slap on the shoulder and stuff like that. It sort of disarms him a little bit. Look, you see, guys want to look and feel cool. Girls traditionally want to look and feel beautiful. So now, it's important that we actually tell the bride and the groom independently of why we're doing what we're doing. As in, hey man, just to let you know, I'm going to get you to mirror me today. So if I bring my chin up, you do the same. Perfect, nice and easy. Perfect. Okay, so now he knows the mirroring thing. That's going to be an easy one. And always tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it. So if I say to you, again, you got a great bod, let's just face it, he works out, all right? So all is good. But any guy, see, guys usually have three issues with their bodies. Usually it's a gut, usually it's double chin, bald head. He's totally fine, but it doesn't mean that he wants to look bigger than he actually is. Maybe his arms and muscles and shoulders, but we've got to be careful. See, if curves define the female form, what I believe defines the male form are the chest and the shoulders. It's the strength. In other words, you build a palace for a queen, it's going to be beautiful and soft and round and things like that. You build a palace for a king, it's going to be strong and straight. So it's a different sensibility. I'm not saying there's no exceptions to the rule. Of course there is. There's going to be different genders that have sort of non-traditional energies that are not associated with that gender. Fine, we understand that, but we're trying to look at the common denominators that will suit most people. And that's what we're doing right now. So when it comes to a guy, we need to know that. All right, so now that you know the mirroring thing, I'll actually say to you, I'll often get you to lean your body forward. And when that happens is your chest and shoulders look bigger, your waist looks smaller. Would you like that?
Sure.
Of course. He's not going to basically say no to that. Also, I'm always going to get you to basically bend, put your feet together, and then just put all your weight on your back leg. Right? So, and that's the opposite, which is great, which you're mirroring me right now. Why we do that, guys, is if we do it overtly, it's going to look feminine. We don't want that. So, for example, if we're looking at this camera, I'm not going to do the female pose with a guy. It's not going to happen. But what I do is, if I'm facing the camera, so let's face the camera together. So if we're facing the camera, now I want you to mirror what I'm doing. So we're going to turn this way. Now, all I want you to do, so if you're looking at me here now, you see my feet. So we never want the feet to be pigeon-toed for a girl or a guy. That's going to look weird. Usually most people will stand a bit of a sort of a fan, almost like a bit of a triangle with their feet. So what I want you to do now is just, so relax a bit. So just shake the legs out, and then you're just putting all your weight in your back leg. Yep, perfect, good. Now, why do I do that? And now, I'll tell you in a second, I want you to just lean your shoulders forward. For the sake of the argument, your hands in your trouser pockets all the way. So right in. So you're going to lean a bit forward and then turn your upper body this way. So let me go to the back of the camera now. Let's have a look here. Perfect. Okay, so what do we have now with the groom? Well, what we've got now is we've got a bit of a V. So we often talk about brides and curves. We've talked about the S curve, right? The beautiful S curve. The more curves we see, the more beautiful and more curvaceous a girl would look. With a guy, I often refer to the letter, if you want a bit of a metaphor for the way we want to pose him, it's either a V or a C. We'll talk about the V for the moment. So if you look at his body, he's putting one leg in front of the other. I think that's important. Me personally, what I personally like, I'm not saying this is a rule or you can't break it, what I personally like is, I love the fact that his shoulders are turned towards me, one knee's over the other, and basically his chest, because it's turned a bit more towards me, not completely front on, we're actually creating a wider shoulder, and then it cuts in a little bit. Therefore, because you need peaks and valleys, because his shoulders are quite wide and his legs go in, it's basically emphasized because you've got something to compare it to. No different than photographing, let's say, a landscape, and you find a little human being right near the landscape of the mountain, then you see scale. Now scale, his shoulders look wider because his legs narrow in. Now let's go back to standing completely front on with your hands in your pockets. So hands in your pockets. Do you sort of see how that is not the way you pose a guy? He's just basically, it almost looks like he's ready to be shot in the firing squad. Perhaps a bit casually there with his hands in his pockets. It just doesn't work. Personally, I very rarely like to shoot a guy with a gap between his legs. I always want one foot in front of the other. Now, the only time that I actually think that's okay, as in photographing a gap between the legs, is actually doing this. See how there's a little bit of a gap there, but it's crossed over. That actually works really well. So I think for me, shooting front on and crossing those legs, now I still get the V because I start wider with his shoulders and it comes basically in, and now I've got something to compare it to. So this is probably one of the only exceptions where I'm happy to shoot front on, or if the bride is actually posing with him, she breaks the monotony of just that straight groom and then the legs parted. It just doesn't feel right. So for me, that's what I would do. But let's just unravel the legs a little bit. So what we'll do now again, so hands in the pockets, just again, for the sake of the argument, we'll come to hands in a moment. We're going to just turn pretend like you're on a turntable and you're turning this way. Good, stop there. Now guys, that's another really important point. I did this sort of under my breath with Lisa, but whether I'm photographing a guy or a girl or a couple, I always tell them, pretend you're on a turntable and turn this way. I could say turn to your right, turn to your left, and sometimes I do that, but who's right and who's left? And sometimes you're just not focusing, and sometimes I do it deliberately. So if I tell a bride, turn left, and she does this, your other left, and she's like, oh my gosh, and then all of a sudden she giggles and you got the shot. So either way, left or right will work, and your backup plan is, no, your other left or right, and you're fine. But pretending your couple or your subject is on a turntable and twisting them this way, there's no way they're going to turn their body that way. They will turn this way. Or I'll pick something in the environment and I'll say, like, let's say if there was a bridge over there, hey, turn your body towards the bridge. There's no mistaking it because there's no bridge on this side. So, all right. So now you've turned your body, okay? You're on a bit of an angle. Bring your feet a touch closer together. Now what I want you to do, put all the weight on your back leg and just bend that front knee. Good. So now hang your body forward. Good. And then turn your shoulders a bit more towards me and then hang your body more forward. Good. Now guys, that for me, now turn your left toe a touch towards me. That's it. And then bring it in a little bit. Good. Perfect. So for me, that is the foundation of the male pose. Now you might say, well, wait a second, Jerry, this isn't right. He's slouching. Well, yeah, he is slouching. I think a good foundation for a groom's pose is a glorified slouch, because if we point the toe towards the camera, slide the heel back in, bend the knee, shift the hip back, shoulders back, lean forward, that doesn't work for a guy. That just looks feminine. But I want a bit of an angle, potentially. So what I do is I'm going to do this on a bit of an angle. I'm going to bring his chest and shoulders, like his shoulders a bit back, because we want to emphasize those shoulders. We want to bring the waist back. Otherwise, we stand up too straight. We get this. That's going to be an issue. So remember, guys, that even though it's a glorified slouch, this is going to work. Now, how far do you go with this? It really depends on the guy. So sometimes I might get a plus size guy, and I'm telling you, I've got him like literally like leaning like this, and I will probably crop out the awkwardness, or get him to lean on a pillar or a chair or something like that that will soften his weight. And of course, you would have seen, and if you haven't seen my segment on corrective posing, you'll see many examples on how to photograph a plus-size groom, plus-size bride, couple, and how to minimize and soften and accentuate and bring out the best in people and soften things as well. So remember that. Now let's talk about a few other things. Let's unravel a little bit again. So what do you do with hands? Okay, hands are an issue for a guy too. Now, yes, you can't overpose a guy with hands. I mean, you know, it's a little bit weird. It can look a little bit awkward. Now, if you just crossed your arms without thinking, how would you do it? Yeah, most guys will do this. One hand will be out, one hand will be in. If you have a guy with small biceps and you want to make those biceps look bigger, you simply bring that hand underneath, make a fist out of both hands, and then you do that. Now, for me, I do have small arms. Now, you have bigger arms, but I'm 6'2". I can get muscles, you can't get taller. That makes me feel better about it also. But for me, because I've got very skinny arms, I would bring my hands, and then I would do something like this. Just makes it look a little bit stronger. And again, if I engage the camera more, hang the body forward, I'm going to make this area look stronger again. Remember too, even a plus-size girl has less of a problem with a double chin than a guy. Guys, plus size or even normal, like I would consider myself a normal guy. I'm not really plus size, I'm not really skinny, I'm just like a normal guy. I can get a problem over here. So that's where I'd bring my chin forward. The same with the guy. They always get them to mirror you. It'll always work. So chin forward, that's it. And I'll often do it and I'll keep on doing it. I'll never feel like, oh, maybe the groom thinks I'm a fool because I'm just over accentuating, or he'll know what I'm doing. She will know what I'm doing by bringing the chin forward. And I'll often say, just like a turtle, bring the chin out, bang. And it actually helps. Now, as far as the hands are concerned, there's a few things. Now, the easiest thing you can do is put your hands in your pockets. That's going to be very disarming. Guys just feel cool doing that. Now, just for the sake of the argument, we'll undo this. I want you now to bring your hands over your jacket and then put your hands in your pockets. Now guys, if we do this, do you see how this just makes him look wider? Because we've got basically the belly exposed. So he hasn't got a belly, but all I'm saying is that this has become wider. You see how it goes in and out, in and out? This just makes like this area look wider, which we don't want. So traditionally with a guy, if he's got a couple of buttons on a suit, just a general fashion rule, if it's 3 buttons, you will always do that top button, maybe do the second, and never the bottom. Now you might say, why maybe? Well, if the top button looks good on its own, the bottom 2 are undone, fine. Usually, I'd say in 2020, at this stage, the classic suit is usually 1 button or 2. You would do the top one, and that will just leave a little bit of freedom when he's sitting down or anything like that. Now, let's just expose the hands in the pockets again. Okay, so hands in the pockets can look really good. Great, they're disarming, it works well, guys feel cool doing it. Now, here's what I believe the wrong way to do it. Just bring your thumbs out. Okay, guys, thumbs out can look, I believe, like a male appendage pointing to the real thing, and no one likes that. Yes, body language suggests that me putting my thumb out of my pocket, actually, it's quite a relaxed feeling. It is a suggestion that I am relaxed. This probably looks a little bit more tense and not as relaxed. It does look relaxed, but not as much as the thumb out. But I'm saying is I'd rather sacrifice the idea of 2 little male appendages pointing to the real thing. We don't want that. Now, let's do the other way. Thumbs in. If you do that, well, that's framing the real appendage. We don't want that. We're literally drawing attention. Now, if he was wearing jeans and we're photographing a casual look, let's say at an engagement session or something like that, well, this is where I'd keep the thumbs in and do a relaxed fist on both sides. Yep. But I'm telling you now, guys, that hands in the pockets, in or out. So put your hands back in, do the button up, never leave it undone. This is just going to make guys look wider. Some guys will often do that, or they'll actually do this, which is terrible. Oh, not that. Well, that's terrible. There we go. They'll do the bottom one. like that just looks wide now. Like, you know, he's got a cool bod, but it just doesn't look right at all. So I was trying to think of a, like, great bod. How do I say that? It just sounds a bit weird. Like cool bod, I think, you know. So that would be the way to go. Make sense? So what else can we do with the guy's hands? Well, there's many things. So watch this. Let's say we're just crossing our arms again. So it can be, like I said, big biceps, great. If not, one out. One out, it's usually like this. It's usually most guys do. That's it. That's more the natural way of doing it. Now, what else can you do for a guy? Perhaps what we do is maybe we get him to adjust his tie. In fact, I'll do it from over here so we can give everybody an idea of what's going on. So turn your body on a bit of an angle. Yeah, perfect. A bit more. Okay, just do your tie for me. That's it. Now, do you see the angle on which we're photographing, especially the camera that I'm behind right now? I can't see his right hand. If I switch hands, it'll actually work. Let's do that. Perfect. So now I see both hands. Fantastic. That's the way I would do it. Also, let's adjust your cufflink. Let's assume you had a cufflink. So just follow me here. Put it back in like this. There you go. Perfect. So perfect. And then what you can do with his face, like if you want shots to look glamorous and natural, give him something to do. If he was doing something natural with his hands and then you got him looking in the camera, it would look a little bit weird because we're basically saying, well, he's doing an action, but then he's looking at the camera and he's posing. But if I got him to lean forward and then just look off to the left, he looks cool. Hey, there's James Bond just freaking getting ready to... And why is James Bond always wearing a suit? That's not tactical at all. But anyway, this could also be adjusting your collar. Let's do that. Perfect. It could be just one hand in the pocket. That's it. And then one hand on the collar as well. That's the thing, is that we just got to give the guys something to do. Otherwise, they're going to look weird. If nothing else, the foundation pose, put the hands in the pockets, and you're laughing. Really, really cool, guys. So remember the foundation for the guy's pose. Let's relax a little bit. He's standing front on. Me personally, so just turn your feet a little bit more this way. Let's just reiterate all these things. We do not want the guy flat-footed. So flat-footed for the moment, Dylan. Nice and flat. And turn your shoulders right there. Move your feet as well. That's it. We don't want this, okay? We want to just relax a little bit. If we shoot a guy front on, a common denominator that I've been using for many, many years, again, is just bring that foot over. That breaks the monotony of that particular pose, and then again, it gives us a bit of shape. So we want the V, we want powerful, very cool shoulders and stuff. Or we unravel, we turn on a bit of an angle. Let's face this camera now, turn on a bit of an angle. Great. We're going to put all our weight on our back leg. See, now you've got it. You're going to lead that chest forward a little bit, and then chin forward, up. Good. Now remember, if we bring this chin to this shoulder, keep going, and then eyes back at the camera, feminine, come back, that's cool. And now just tilt this way and then turn this way. Cool. That works. Shoulders nice and relaxed. Once the guys get this, it actually makes it easier for the rest of the day. And I will actually do the same lesson for groomsmen. That's what it's all about. So he knows why I'm doing this. The chin forward and sometimes up is going to actually eliminate the skin. Hanging the body is going to make his chest and shoulders look bigger. The waist actually is going to be further back. Bending that leg is going to create a V, going to make him look sort of strong. And as far as his hands are concerned, now we have all these combinations. So let's come back again. We're going to, like I said, we can have hands in the pockets, either in or out. We can do the cufflink. We can actually do the shirt. We can actually put one hand in, one hand out. Of course, we can basically switch. We can put hands in the pockets. We can adjust the collar. We can look away. We can look down. There are many, many things. So just think about all this stuff and don't be intimidated by it, because the guy, any guy for that matter, wants to be posed well as well. They want to look good. And my suggestion is you've got to be a little bit shorter, a little bit sharper with your words. Don't over pose, don't over embellish and everything like that and soften that voice. And sometimes I might do it just to make the groom laugh, but you've got to make it a little bit quick and a little bit sharper. And if I sacrifice perfection to make him comfortable, that's okay. I usually find with the groom that I'll pose him, he'll do well, I can get some cool shots, but when he truly relaxes, when he sees his beautiful bride walking down the aisle, the ceremony's over, and then now we can have some fun, and he's loosened up, and we've given him enough lessons at the groom's coverage to have some fun. So remember, it's not always about the bride. Without the groom, the bride doesn't exist. So make the guys look really, really cool.